we have a plan that is specific and then not going on to say what the specific plan is does not make it specific. And I also would just like to know how public exactly that information is of records of phone calls and stuff, because I don't know how to access all your guys' records of phone calls, even if it's not the content. I don't see how that's public information.
And on top of that, it's important to note that Obama actually ignored his own review board that he convened these recommendations to stop the NSA's systematic efforts to weaken internet security and to monitor phone calls. They recommended to him to actually nix the program, and he just completely ignored that recommendation from the own body that he convened.
Time's up. All right, next question goes to the Libertarians. If the NSA surveillance program is weakened, how will you guarantee U.S. security? In other words, does not weakening NSA surveillance program also weaken U.S. security?
Well, for one, as I pointed out earlier, we believe that excess can lead to waste and lack of proper functioning. So we do not think that cutting back security will necessarily make it less efficient. And assuring security is never a thing. It's a myth.
Additionally, let's take a look at the fact. As of 1979, when FISA was instituted, FISA warrant applications approved 34,000, denied 11. So basically, the FISA court approves everything that comes its way. This isn't a situation of violating national security, or sorry, excuse me. This isn't a situation of decreasing our national security or being more open to threats. This is simply a situation of not being so excessive with our. It's basically wasting resources. I mean, we need to cut down, and we need to have better oversight.
Okay. The Democrats wish to respond. You get a minute to respond.
Okay, so the NSA, you said we need to cut down. First of all, the NSA is $1.5 billion in an over $3 trillion budget. I think that is a small chunk for an agency that provides a lot of good. And two, I mean, if you disable this agency, let me give you an example. Section 215 of the Patriot Act, which allows for these warrants to go to the FISA court, from the FISA court, was enhanced after 9/11, after a man named Khalid al-Mihdhar. He was one of the 19 hijackers on 9/11. He made a call from San Diego to Yemen. The NSA saw the call, but they were not able to track it. They were not able to tell that that the number was being called from San Diego. If they had seen that an Al-Qaeda safe house was being telephoned from San Diego, I think they could have done something. And in addition, the NSA has done a lot of good with this program. 27 prosecutions have been undertaken because of this program, legitimate prosecutions. Thank you.
All right. For the Libertarians, do you think that there are any government operations that should be kept secret?
Could you define secret?
For our part, we do believe that we concede that secrecy is sometimes necessary in very, very few cases. And as we said earlier, we think that when secrecy is completely necessary, there still should be persons involved who are accountable to the people. It should not all be within the bureaucracy of unaccountable officials.
Really, all we're asking is to follow the law.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Really, all we're asking is for the NSA and the government to follow the law.
Thank you.
Okay. For the Democrats, do you admit that government sometimes overreaches and becomes a threat to citizens?
I believe where we're at currently, we are not overstepping any constitutional boundaries. Under the Fourth Amendment, this program is completely constitutional. The metadata that we are looking at is not protected. The phone calls are being traced from those foreign citizens, and then there's the two-hop rule after that. So, because of this, we have civil liberties in place for our citizens. We're putting in additional steps to get to that metadata, which is already public. Phone companies already have this. Many people are looking at the data that the NSA wants to have access to. And we're putting in an additional barrier here with the FISA court, which is overseen by the Congress.
And also something to add, banks, your employers, companies, President Obama noted that sometimes you get pop-up ads on your computer because they have certain information about you. It's information that you voluntarily make public. So it's not as if this information is somehow private and the government's coming into your house and taking it away. No, it's information that's public already. And they're not going into your phone calls. That is something I have to stress. They're not going into your phone calls. The FBI does that, not the NSA. The FBI listens to your phone calls, not the NSA. And that's something I need to make. That's something that I need to make clear to everybody. If someone's listening to your phone calls, it's the people down in New York City at the FBI, not the NSA.
But the FBI is also a branch of government. For the Libertarians, do you think that Snowden or any other whistleblower who exposes what that person takes to be government malfeasance should face legal consequences?
We believe in this case that, we don't have a Libertarian's official stance on this. I'm of the personal belief that if due process could be guaranteed and we could somehow feel comfortable that the process would be very transparent and that he would not be mistreated or have his due process completely ignored, then we would be okay with that. But we doubt that. We doubt that would happen.
It's certainly a case-by-case basis. It's not to say that you, me, and Tom, Dick, and Harry over there can just go and take information, leak it, without any repercussion. That's not what we're saying. That shouldn't be allowed. We understand that and we agree with that. However, in cases of whistleblowers where there are serious threats to our rights that a government agency is infringing upon that need to be brought to light, that's when it should be appropriate for no action to be taken on the legal side. Because at the core of it, you have to realize that the agency is breaking the law in the first place. So shouldn't somebody prosecute that as well?
Okay. For the Democrats, in his letter from Birmingham jail, Martin Luther King declared that a law which is repugnant, which is ethically flawed, should be broken. How would you respond to that?
This program is within the law. This program does not violate the Constitution of the United States. It doesn't, it doesn't run counter to the Fourth Amendment. Again, I keep bringing this up over and over again. The Fourth Amendment does protect the content of information. It protects what's in papers. It protects your private property. It protects your effects. It protects you. It protects the content of your phone calls. Ever since wiretapping became available, then that is what it has protected. However, it does not protect information that is already public. It does not protect your phone number. It does not protect the time length of your calls. This information, again, is available to companies, to your employer, to your banks, to a wide variety of people.
What Mr. Snowden did overstepped what Martin Luther King Jr. proclaimed from the Birmingham letter. What he did by releasing these documents put American lives at risk. It put our diplomatic relations at risk. The government was already looking into this, making changes since the Bush administration. From the very onset of the Patriot Act, internal oversight was being seen throughout the three branches of government. So it's completely different. Martin Luther King was advocating on behalf of civil rights. Mr. Snowden is putting American lives at risk, although we do agree that there is a healthy debate to be had.
Okay, to the Libertarians. Was Mr. Snowden putting American lives at risk? And if he is, or was, does he deserve censure for that?
We certainly believe that if Mr. Snowden had put any American lives at risk, he would deserve censure for that, absolutely, in a transparent due process court. We do not believe that there is any evidence to back up that claim. The same claims were made towards, his name escapes me, but the man who whistle blew on the administration during the Vietnamese War. People said that he was putting lives at risk, and guess what? There was no evidence to back that up. And the same thing is happening today. We have yet to see a specific case where Edward Snowden got somebody killed.
And on top of that, the government has a history of abuse. It's fitting that they brought up a Martin Luther King example because COINTELPRO, back in, it many decades ago, disrupted and tried to neutralize the NAACP, Martin Luther King Jr.'s campaign for freedom and rights, anti-Vietnamese protesters, and women's rights groups. So clearly the government's abusive, and then to refute or to rebut their claim on oversight of Congress and the president. So one, the Intelligence Committee is the only people in Congress who are really a group of maybe 10, 16 people who have information of any of those intelligence gathering matters. Furthermore, President Obama admitted to have no knowledge of the NSA wiretapping German Chancellor Angela Merkel's phone or any other heads of state. So clearly, if the president, the leader of our entire government, is not aware of some of the processes that are taking place and some of the spying operations, there is barely any oversight.
Okay, to the Democrats who wish to respond to that, but first of all, I want you to return to the question I asked earlier, which you did not answer. That is the question of whether or not you agree that the government sometimes becomes abusive and a threat to its citizens.
Sure, so going off of that, it is true, it's happened. We monitored the civil rights movement. It's happened in America. But in the United States, we're held to a higher standard. Now, where we disagree here is that these revelations put out there by Snowden are at risk, and it's a risk that can't entirely be foreseen because these foreign intelligence agencies and other terrorist groups see the American spy practices, and our intelligence is put at risk. We can't have pure diplomatic relationships. Our back doors are being clogged by these revelations. So there has to be a delicate balance.
And something else that I'd just like to add is that U.S.-Russia relations have been further strained. I mean, they were strained to begin with Putin in office and everything, but I mean, U.S.-Russia relations are not better now after these leaks have taken place, ever since that Snowden went to Russia to seek asylum.
And just quickly, the judicial committees in the Senate and House also have oversight on this. It's not just the intelligence committees.
Okay, so it's not.
Okay, to the Libertarians. Why shouldn't a company or any agency or organization have the responsibility to turn over information about suspicious activity?
We don't believe that giving your information to a private company constitutes making it public.
In fact, in your contract for your telephone provider, check your contract when you go home today if you're curious. There is nothing in it that says, I am allowing the government to have my information by signing this contract. So while you're agreeing for the telephone company to have certain rights over that, you're not agreeing for the government to. Furthermore, Google, Apple, AT&T, the list goes on, have secretly given your information to the NSA and to other government agencies. And even despite the fact that Obama has reforms, despite these reforms, third parties like these services or these service providers will continue to do this and will have authority and perhaps even be pushed into doing it by the government. A good example is Quest, where their CEO met with the NSA and they tried to convince him to give over the information of his clients. He refused. He said, no, that's illegal. I won't I won't break the law. In turn, what did he get? He got a insider trading lawsuit, he got charged for insider trading by the government, by the FBI, and his company went to ruins as well. So,
and if I could just say something, those kinds of retaliatory tactics are exactly why Edward Snowden did actually have something to fear.
Okay, to the Democrats. Isn't President Obama's suggestion of adding a privacy advocate to the FISA court an admission that the court hearings are stacked in favor of the government?
I think that just adds even more greater transparency. Right now, the Supreme Court Justice, Chief Justice John Roberts, who is appointed by a Republican president, is ahead. That's a balance already, and we're talking judicial, executive, and political boundaries there. Now, President Obama has been in talks with many civil rights advocates, and by adding another face to the court, it just increases transparency. I don't think it's fair to say that it's stacked. We're putting other magistrate and circuit court judges who have been approved by Congress and taking them into the FISA court.
Yeah, I also think that the, addition of a privacy advocate on the FISA court does not constitute some admission of guilt by the government. I think that the process is very clear in order how to get a warrant in the first place, and I think that the president is just responding to some concerns brought up by people on both the left and the right, that there should be greater privacy allowed in, NSA FISA court dealings.
Okay, to the Libertarians. Why isn't adding a privacy advocate sufficient?
It's just, it's a drop in a water pail. It does close to nothing. It's a step in the right direction, yeah, sure. But it does very little to actually address the real issue here. And it just, once again, just to reiterate my point, it's something that the Obama administration has done to pacify people. It makes people feel comforted by the fact that he is doing some sort of reform. But at the same time, little will change. In the intelligence gathering community, if anybody's familiar, they're not even fazed by this because they know barely anything will change. They'll still have access to the same information, and it's all in the public's views. This topic will continue to be a bane to the existence of the lack of government oversight.
We don't condemn the privacy advocate, we encourage it, but we think it's just a very, very small step in the correct direction, and there needs to be a lot more done.
Okay. If I remember correctly, I started with the Libertarians. I'm going to give the Democrats a final response, and then I'll open it to the then I'll open it to the audience. For the Democrats, what's your response to the White House NSA reform panel's finding that the NSA metadata program has not stopped a single terrorist attack?
Yeah. Something about that, again, I'm going to go back to the prosecutions that are already underway in the court system because of the hopping system that the NSA has employed. So before the 2-hop rule was instituted, there was a 3-hop rule. So like if we were tracking a phone number of a foreigner, and then we found that phone number was linked to a U.S. phone number and another U.S. phone number, that has resulted in 27 ongoing prosecutions in the U.S. court system right now, the so-called transparent court system right now. And one of those cases is the Al-Shabaab terror plot case, being prosecuted right now because of this very program. 2, I bring up Section 215 of the Patriot Act. And I go back to the previous example. Khalid al-Mindar, one of the 9/11 hijackers, made a call from San Diego to Yemen. The NSA saw the call was made to the safe house in Yemen, but they could not tell where the call was coming from. If they saw that the call was coming from a domestic operation site in San Diego, they could have done some investigating or turned it over to the FBI or turned it over to someone to do more, get more work done on this and prevent something terrible from happening. So I would say that prosecutions are underway right now.
Okay. Audience member. People in the audience want to ask questions. Oh, can you stand up, please?
Yes, sir. All right, early in the debate, you said that when judges sign a warrant, it goes to the FISA court and that these are federal judges and that it's, a reliable process. My question to you is how reliable are these courts when they clear 99.3% of all the that are presented to them? And how is it that only the government is allowed to have counsel in these courts? The other people aren't allowed to represent themselves. Is that even a court?
When you say you, who are you talking to?
The College Democrats.
Okay.
Sure, so in response to that, it's true, 99% of these proceedings go through. However, there is oversight. There's oversight in Congress, specifically by the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. And these committees have been renewing the power of the FISA court. So obviously they see that there is some kind of necessary reason to have it and that they have their trust put behind it. So it's a balance of the 3 branches of government there. The executive and legislative saying that yes, the judiciary branch has the authority here and are correctly ruling. And now above that, we're adding in more restrictions from the 3-hop to the 2-hop policy, So the ability to even go to the court, there's much less data that can even be obtained now. That's a near exponential decrease in the amount of data that the government is allowed to access. And we're also advocating for a third-party provider to hold on to this data, so it's not directly available. You have to go to the court, which, as I've already said, has congressional oversight. And the Judicial Committee already sees the proceedings and we released 40 FISA court decisions and made them completely public. On top of that, in transparency, we're making it so that individuals ask for information can release that information 1 year after. We're making it as transparent as possible while understanding that this is intelligence by its very nature. It is private and it has to be kept that way in order not to put lives at risk.
Time's up. You wish to respond, the Libertarians?
All I have to say is that a secret court is an oxymoron, and the people who are being spied upon cannot represent themselves, and that's not a court. Don't call it a court when it's not. If you want it to be secret, fine, but don't call it a court.
And clearly, they kept, the College Democrats continue to maintain that, oh, it's not breaking your Fourth Amendment rights. Actually, it is. There's no probable cause. There is no, you have no defense against search and seizure. The Fourth Amendment is supposed to protect against these. But if you, for some reason, are wrongly accused, due to these secret courts, there is no defense. You are God, and you will not be seen again. Who knows where they'll put you?
Let's go on to some other people. The man in the pink shirt.
Sort of as a follow-up, I mean, one way of looking at how many, the amount of warrants that are approved is that they're just rubber stamping it, but couldn't it also be said that because so many of them were approved, that it's because of prudent investigation and reliable sources, that way we have actual responsible prosecutors and investigators?
Who's your comment directed to?
I guess the Libertarian.
All right.
I would say that if there was a good record of maybe most of them getting approved, but we're talking about upwards of 98% of them being approved, and that reeks of suspicion.
It's difficult to actually tell, given the fact that we're not privy to this intelligence information.
We could probably make a better judgment of that if there were more transparency.
But judging about the efficacy or their lack of efficacy of these actual warrants that have been approved, we can. It's pretty reasonable to say that more than 11 of these 34,011 should have been declined, and that they weren't relevant.
Nobody's that efficient.
Okay.
Especially not the U.S. government.
The man in the hat here.
I think this issue is,
I'm sorry, who are you addressing your
sorry,
comments to?
both
Okay.
their ideas on whether they consider there's a moral difference between government hoarding, say, cards that people send through the post office, and then securing the emails of people in the form of metadata, and why doesn't the government do that with cards also? They think that that's permissible. Why isn't the federal government using the National Postal Service to acquire all intersections of all messages that we do and scan them, keep a record for 5 years that they're doing with metadata? What is the moral difference between cards that we write to each other and emails?
Okay.
So your question is, what's the moral difference between written messages and electronic ones?
Yeah, and why they maintain that the Democrats maintain that the government has the right to do that. Why is the government not doing that with the Postal Service?
I would say that in addressing this issue of moral difference, I would also bring up the fact that anytime the government is tracking a phone number, or when it tracked emails again, remember the program tracking emails ended in 2011, it was tracking the emails of foreigners who are not protected by the Fourth Amendment. So, and you also have to realize we live in a very technologically advanced world where communication and globalization has has increased the threat of terrorism, increased the threat of mass destruction. So I think when couple that with phone calls, emails, text messages, information can be transmitted faster than through snail mail. So it allows for communications to be enhanced, and it allows for the potential of something deadly or dangerous happening to happen at a faster rate. So, and just to address the idea of the Fourth Amendment and probable cause here that was brought up by the other side, I would say that the Fourth Amendment does not protect foreigners, it protects American citizens. So we have a hop rule, again, with regard to this whole process of your phone calls. So if the government is tracking the number of a foreigner, he or she is not protected by the Fourth Amendment. If there is probable cause behind tracking the foreigner, then the government can do that. It is not a domestic resident of the United States.
Okay, Libertarians wish to respond?
To address the question the gentleman in the hat asked, the moral difference is that it's more permissible if you don't know about it. I would know if the government took my letter from grandma.
And I'd
I don't
probably
know about
stop
email.
sending mail because I wouldn't want the government knowing my information.
But I don't know about that email that's been intercepted.
Or I'd probably at least be more careful about what I put in my
Okay, man in the back has I assume, a follow-up to his question.
In response to my question about the FISA court, you said that the government has pretty effective oversight. My question for you is, how is congressional oversight effective when the NSA Director James Clapper committed felony perjury and lied, saying that no, he did not collect data on Americans? How was this oversight effective when neither the House or the Senate knew about any of the NSA programs that were listed in the Snowden documents, like Keyscore, PRISM, COINTELPRO, and how was the Senate Judiciary Committee effective when the CIA conducted wiretaps on them prior to a committee hearing in order to find out what they knew and what they could lie about?
Can you respond to that?
Sure, so there's a lot of points, just point out any if I'm missing them during this. But essentially, we start with foreigners who we feel that there is a reason to track. We have known information that they're part of a terrorist or other kind of organization that we need to be aware of and follow. The only way it's going to affect Americans is if they're within 2 hops of contact now, previously it was 3 hops, with this known member of a terrorist organization. So it's not a direct attack on Americans. It's not like we're snooping on you, listening to your phone conversations. There's a lot of sensationalized claims out there. It's okay under the Fourth Amendment. It's completely constitutional because it originates under foreigners who are not protected.
And to address the idea of Clapper committing felony perjury, I don't think he's ever committed felony perjury at all. I think in the context of what he was saying, he was talking about we're not collecting data on Americans, and in context of the HOP rule. So, for example, we're not taking data from Americans in the first place, we're not taking their phone numbers. If in the first instance we're getting it from foreigners, and then we're moving on if there is a credible threat. And again, this goes back to the idea that we're not collecting the content of the calls or the recordings of the calls. We're collecting the numbers and the duration of the time and the duration of the calls. That is not protected by the Fourth Amendment. That is public information.
So my question for you was, how are these congressional oversight effective when both House and Senate did not know about any of the NSA programs like Keyscore, which collects your emails, social media activity, and browsing history, which is data on Americans, not foreigners, in which they do not require authorization or warrants to access? So how are the Senate oversight committees or House oversight committees effective when they don't know about any of these warrantless investigations of any kind of activity? How are they effective when the CIA wiretaps the Senate Judiciary Committee to find out what they can lie about? And how are they effective when they just don't know anything that the NSA is doing with respect to the released Snowden documents?
Okay, the Libertarians wish to respond?
This was my question for the Democrats, because they talked about Fourth Amendment, and that's what I asked.
I mean, I obviously agree with the gentleman in the audience that's the point. There's no accountability because the elected officials who are accountable to the people do not know what the hell is going on. And in response to these lovely gentlemen, I just like to say that I didn't know I lost my citizenship when I talked to a guy who talked to a terrorist. It's good to know. Thank you.
You never said you lost your citizenship.
Okay,
You said we were in spying on American citizens.
man in the back.
Well, you said previously that the Obama administration is promoting reforms in order to protect the constitutional rights of Americans, even though the president recently signed NDA, which in section 1021 or 1051, 1021 and 1022 allow for American citizens to be indefinitely detained. How can we possibly say that the administration is being more transparent in the light of many drone strikes happening in Pakistan, Yemen, and many countries in the Middle East where innocent children are dying and the administration neglects to at least address the issue?
So we've said it before, and we'll say it again. It's a very delicate balance. I'm not 100%. I don't have the documents in front of me, so it's tough to directly address those two issues. But as far as the NSA and FBI go in the Obama reforms, the focus is on increasing transparency while maintaining intelligence. So you have to understand that in order for intelligence gathering to be effective, at the onset there has to be some kind of privacy. However, once that privacy no longer really matters, the president's completely okay in making that 100% transparent. That's why we released 40 FISA proceedings, and it's why we also put a 1-year transparency on any FBI orders through the court, so that those people who are asked to give over data, those companies, communications corporations who are asked to give over the data can release that with 1 year after. And we're going to make additional reforms allowing those communication companies to greater let the public know how many requests are being made and what kind of requests are being made of their corporations.
Woman right here.
You constantly bring up the idea of...
Who is you?
Sorry, both groups bring up the idea of intelligence being related to national security and keeping American lives safe, specifically the lives of soldiers. My question is, how can you find evidence of that, what they mentioned, when the only one soldier has been in any way impacted by what happened, and her name is Chelsea Manning. So I would like to know how this relates to national security.
So is that directed to the
It's to
Democrats?
both. Anyone can answer that.
You go first.
Okay, all right. So, like I mentioned before, 27 prosecutions are currently underway, including the one regarding the Al-Shabaab terror plot. Because of the work the NSA has done and in cooperation with the other IC intelligence community agencies, I would say that the actions that the NSA takes is crucial to protecting national security and protecting us from a deadly threat from abroad. I would also say that right now, while that these prosecutions and that these court proceedings are underway right now, they're ongoing. So while nothing has been secured, they're in the court system, they're being worked out.
I'm sorry, was that your question, or was your question why the leaking of this intelligence is dangerous?
I'm specific to Edward Snowden.
Okay,
I sent
yeah,
him
I
the
thought-
Guardian about
I thought
who
that
I
you meant-
stalk
yeah.
on Facebook matters.
Why the leaks are such a threat?
Yeah, why is
Okay.
it so dangerous?
Yeah, I would like to know that too. I would like to know why we value the privacy of something as vague as intelligence over the privacy of our citizens, and I would like to know why that intelligence that was leaked is so dangerous. And I think that there isn't much evidence to found those accusations.
I would also like to add.
No.
Oh, sorry.
The man here.
Yeah, this is to the Dems. You said earlier that what Snowden leaked didn't enhance the debate that was going on. The debate was already going on. When we know that President Obama has said that he didn't know about certain programs, when Senator Ron Wyden, a Democrat, had said that there were certain surveillance issues that he wanted to bring up that he couldn't because it was illegal. When Senator Bernie Sanders, who caucuses with the Democrats, has asked the NSA if the NSA spies on Congress, when certain leaks have suggested that the NSA gives data, intelligence data about lawmakers and judges to Israel. So you said that the leaks have not enhanced or even started the debate when there is so much evidence suggesting otherwise. And the only way Edward Snowden could have leaked this information is the way he went about it. Because if he were to be tried under the Espionage Act, he would not be allowed to make the case that he did it for the public good. So I don't really quite understand what your argument is, saying that what he did was basically nothing or bad. Could you please clarify that?
Sure, I'm going to take this one for you. So we completely agree that this is a healthy debate going on in our society. It's tough to put it in a public light because of the matter of intelligence. Like we said before, there's a certain necessity to keep that private. because there are unforeseen consequences when hostile nations, hostile organizations can see the way that the U.S. acts in a diplomatic manner, in our intelligence gathering, and can then counteract that. We won't see the consequences of that for years to come. So it's really tough to say. And the people working in the NSA, if anything goes by them, they get blasted for it. But there's so many unheralded successes that are happening, and there's an ever-increasing technology kind of atmosphere that we have to navigate with Web 2.0 and other increasing technologies. So it's imperative that this data mining and any kind of resources that the American government can put forth to protect citizens, protect the way that we deal with foreign nations, other hostile people, individuals, etc., that we're doing that.
You wish to